Fog clung to the night like a heavy shroud as it rolled over Blackwood Manor, an old and forsaken mansion that sat like a crow on a hilltop, cast in shadows and secrets. The manor's windows were dark, empty eyes, and anyone who dared to walk by swore they could hear whispers, sobs, and even the occasional bone-chilling scream. For 50 years, Blackwood Manor had been deserted. Lady Eleanor Blackwood's death had left it abandoned, her family retreating back to London shortly after her passing, carrying with them no more than the weight of their sins. The townsfolk never spoke openly about it, but everyone knew the Blackwoods left something dark and unresolved behind. But tonight, a group of bold, or perhaps foolhardy townsfolk stood at the manor's front doors. Among them was Cassie, a quiet but determined young woman with a sharp eye for mystery. She wasn't here out of morbid curiosity. She was here to lay old rumors to rest. The air around her seemed colder, sharper, the moment she stepped into the shadow of the mansion. "Think we'll hear anything?" David, a tall, lanky man with shaky hands, muttered, shifting on his feet. Cassie glanced at him, her expression as steady as her grip on the lantern in her hand. "Only one way to find out." The others shuffled nervously, exchanging hesitant looks before they followed Cassie through the door. The hinges groaned under the weight of years, and as they stepped inside, the air grew thick and suffocating. Each step they took felt like an invasion, an unwelcome stirring of something best left undisturbed. They walked through the grand hall, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The lantern's glow cast shadows on the walls, and Cassie felt every set of eyes in the portraits watching her. In the center of them all was Lady Eleanor herself, painted in deep oils, her expression calm yet sharp, her gaze unwavering. She had been a woman of great pride, and her wealth had matched her spirit, and it was for that very wealth, rumor had it, that she'd been murdered. Then they heard it, a faint, agonizing sound, a whisper, barely audible, seeping through the walls. "Did you hear that?" Cassie whispered, her grip tightening on the lantern. The group froze, every muscle in their bodies tense, as a loud, tortured scream tore through the air. It was a sound of pure despair, a cry so filled with anger and grief that it made their skin crawl. The scream echoed down the hall, twisting around them, making it impossible to pinpoint its source. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the scream stopped, leaving an oppressive silence that pressed down on them. A voice broke the silence. "Lady Eleanor?" Cassie spun around, eyes wide. An elderly man, hunched with age and wrapped in a dark cloak, stood in the shadows. His face was obscured, and none of them had seen him enter the mansion. It was as if he had appeared out of the walls themselves. "She was wronged," the man continued in a hoarse whisper, "by her own family, those who were supposed to love her. They craved her fortune but despised her will, so they took her life in the dark of night, and for that she remains bound to this place." Cassie swallowed, her throat dry. "How can we help her?" The old man's face twisted into a grim smile. "Lady Eleanor left a letter that holds the truth, but her family hid it away, thinking it would silence her. Find it, and you may finally free her from this prison." They exchanged wary glances, but the thought of leaving without uncovering the truth felt cowardly. Together, they ventured up the creaking staircase to the west wing, their lantern casting long shadows that made the walls appear alive. The air grew colder as they walked, until they reached the end of a narrow hallway. There, they found a door barely hanging on its hinges, its wood worn and splintered. Cassie pushed it open, revealing Lady Eleanor's bedroom, frozen in time. Dust lay thick over the furniture, and the curtains hung like shrouds. Cassie moved to the vanity, her fingers brushing over its surface until she found a small, dusty envelope tucked beneath a jewelry box. Her hands shook as she pulled it free and opened it. The letter inside was written in a trembling hand, the ink smeared in places, but the message was clear. It named her murderers, her family members who had plotted to kill her for her fortune. Edwin Blackwood, her own nephew, had led the plot, seeing her wealth as his birthright. He had used every trick he knew to undermine her sanity, spreading rumors, moving objects, even tampering with her food, all to convince her that she was losing her mind. Cassie read aloud. "I know what you are doing, Edwin. You think me weak and feeble, but I am neither. You poison my tea and move my belongings, hoping to make me doubt myself. But I see you for what you are, a thief, and a coward. And if I die by your hand, know this, my spirit will never rest. You will feel my presence with every breath, every shadow that crosses your path. You will never know peace. And when you are gone, I will linger still, bound by betrayal and rage." As she finished reading, the room grew colder still. The lantern flickered, and the old man's voice echoed from the doorway. "She knew," he said, nodding. "She knew all along, but her family's greed ran deeper than her warnings." Cassie looked up, her jaw set in anger. "What happened to him?" The old man's gaze hardened. "He escaped justice in this life. Left the manor with his hands clean and his pockets heavy, but Lady Eleanor's last words left their mark on him. Edwin spent the rest of his life tormented by visions and whispers he couldn't escape. He became a paranoid shell, haunted by the woman he had wronged, until he died in isolation, raving about her spirit." David took a shaky breath. "So, that's it? He got away with it?" Cassie shook her head. "Not entirely. We can still expose him. People should know what he did. That way, Lady Eleanor's death won't be for nothing." The old man nodded approvingly. "You speak with honor. Share her story. Let the world know of the evil she endured. Only then can she truly rest." Cassie folded the letter, carefully tucking it into her jacket. "We'll make sure of it. No one will forget what happened here." Just then, the sound of a faint sigh filled the room, soft and sorrowful, as if a great weight had been lifted. Cassie looked around, feeling a calm settle over the room. The air no longer felt heavy with sorrow, and the walls seemed to exhale a long-held breath. Lady Eleanor's presence felt as if it were slipping away, finally at peace. They walked down the stairs in silence, each lost in thought, until they reached the front door. As they stepped out into the night, they turned to look back at the manor one last time. The fog had lifted, and in the light of the moon, the old mansion looked peaceful, almost serene. Yet, as they turned to leave, Cassie heard one last whisper, carried on the breeze, a soft, lingering echo of Lady Eleanor's final scream, a reminder of her undying spirit.